From the first second that I was asked to come back here today, I knew that there was only one thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's public speaking. It's my obsession. It's an obsession that started off when I was really very young, giving impassioned and, at the time, equally high-pitched addresses, right up until the present day. Today, having to speak well is, in a very real way, my job. As mentioned, I work as an MC under the music and drama company of the Singapore Armed Forces. We exist, we are a very small part of the army. Essentially, we train a few soldiers to be singers, to be dancers, and in my case, to be MCs. And we service military functions and we boost our soldier morale. In the past 2 years, I've worked on maybe over 100 functions, including, as mentioned again, narrating marching parades and the highlight of my career, the National Day Parade. Today, if you'll let me, I'd like to just explore some of the ideas, some of the advice that I've learned along the way. We actually begin this journey backstage, before a single word has been said. Our mic is in hand and we're waiting for that vital cue to go up on stage and begin the show. There's just one problem. Our legs are shaking, our stomach is in knots, and we sweat through our shirt. Literally everything that just happened before I walked on stage. The symptoms are all too familiar. The diagnosis, stage fright. I love my job, but it certainly wasn't easy to begin with. There are essentially two kinds of shows that I do. There are formal shows, where I get to wear a tie, a jacket, have a bit more of a serious demeanor, and informal shows, which are a whole other ballgame. Our informal shows are essentially concerts. They're big productions with our singers, with our dancers. And it's up to the MC to get the crowd as hyped as possible for what's happening on stage. As loud, as energetic, as rowdy as they can be. So we have a few tricks up our sleeve, to do this. We say things like, hey, let me hear you make some noise. That wasn't good enough. One more time. Let me hear you make some noise. Yada, 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 yada. We set the tone for the show and then bring the audience up to that same point. I am very well suited to doing formal shows. I think it's closer to my actual personality. So to have to act as this sort of hype man was so foreign, was so alien to me that I was terrified about going up on stage. And the show must go on. So when I was there, that fear just bled right through into the performance. I looked stilted on stage. Everything I did seemed and looked unnatural. It was a very difficult time. I struggled in those early months. Obviously, I want to do a good job. The show producers want me to do a good job. And the audience has an expectation for a competent MC. So they were the expectations set by myself, by the producers, and by the audience. But all of this fear stemmed from a fundamental fear of looking like a fool on stage. And I think this may ring true for many of us in relation to public speaking. We don't want to look like fools, and we don't want to embarrass ourselves when we're up here. It's perfectly reasonable. But how do we move past this? I think key is finding a sense of courage. And I use the word courage here very purposely. We're not trying to remove that fear. We're just trying to quieten it to the point where we can perform well in spite of it. Now this is, of course, easier said than done. And it is a process that will be unique to every individual. But key is recognizing that to begin with, you are probably going to look a bit ridiculous. You are probably going to look a bit like a fool, and that's okay. You're learning a new skill. You have to give yourself a bit of leeway. So long as with each presentation, each show, you are just targeting one thing you want to work on, your body language, your energy. Slowly but surely, you're going to improve. And with that growth will come confidence. And with that confidence, a more natural demeanor. If there is one thing I want you guys to take away from this, especially the students in the audience, is that this process, just repeated over and over again, finding the vulnerability to place yourself in this uncomfortable position and then inching your way to comfort, that can be hugely beneficial. So please, take up the opportunities the school has to offer. MUN, debating, a prefect role, any place where you are challenging yourself to improve. All of those are excellent catalysts for growth. Now that we're feeling a little bit better maybe about being on stage, let's take a look at what we're actually doing now that we're here. There are essentially two arms to communication. What am I saying and how am I saying it? Subject matter and delivery. It would be a mistake to assume that the audience holds both of these to be equal. A study by UCLA showed that 55% of our impact on an audience is in our gestures, 38% in our tone, and only 7% in the actual words that we are saying. Now please do not get me wrong, I'm not saying that the subject matter is unimportant, but it is merely the foundation for communication. Gestures, tone, pace, energy. These are the tools that transform speech into language. When we look at the kinds of shows then that we do, again, formal and informal. In a formal show, you want to be as conversational as possible, right? The audience are just good friends, everyone is here for a good time. So you say things like, hey, how are you doing? Hope you guys are excited. Up next we have the performers from the music and drama company. We're going to play a few games in just a short while, but now let's welcome them to the stage. Things like that. Yeah, it's a daily occurrence. People make the mistake of assuming that formal talking is the exact opposite. It's not. It's true, we have a limited use of tone, we're more serious. There's not as much energy, but there is not a lack of energy. There is a marked difference between saying, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the guest of honor. And ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the guest of honor. You use energy to punctuate certain moments in a show. And that's how you can elevate a formal presentation. The BMT graduation parade marks the completion of basic military training for new recruits. It is the final transition from recruit into trained soldier. During the ceremony, some 5,000 recruits will march and perform drills before their parents. It is a rite of passage for every young Singaporean man, as culturally significant as it is personally significant. Here, my responsibility is threefold. I have a responsibility to the army. I have a responsibility to the parents. But most importantly, I have a responsibility to the recruits. And through voice alone, I have to establish a sense of ceremony, a sense of importance, and a sense of strength. So it goes a little something like this. The recruits that are graduating today have just completed 9 weeks of basic military training. They have learned a wide range of military skills, from weapon handling to individual field craft. They have been transformed from civilian to military, boys to men. Never underestimate the power of communication. It is a 21st century skill that will be applicable in every single job that you do. My advice, again, take up the opportunities this school has to offer, because you never know where it might lead you. I certainly didn't expect to be doing this in the army. Follow your passions, and you will soar. I would be a poor MC if I didn't thank the organizing committee for putting this together, especially the sound crew, and thank you very much for inviting me back. It has been a privilege. Thank you.